I just wanted to welcome everybody to the next to the last ShmooCon Firetalks. I know, sad, but also, you know, there's good parts too, right? At least that's what we tell ourselves. Anyway, so who's here that has never been to a Firetalk session previously? Oh, okay, so we got a lot, actually. All right. Anyway, this is just, like years ago when I would, and even now, there's a lot of talks that I would go to, and there was like this one key point, and they always made this point that was just awesome, like in the last 10 minutes of the talk. And so the idea of Firetalks is to maybe go in and just give a quick overview of kind of the background to give context, right? But then really in a 15-minute period, say, you know, that last 5 minutes, just dive into the meat of the topic. And so that's what it started at, is something, you know, there were people that did this before me, and I sort of took it and evolved it into what we do here now. So, but anyway, this is something to do on Friday night. It's something to give maybe new speakers the opportunity to speak at a major conference. The other thing is it gives us the opportunity, or even more seasoned speakers, to maybe test out some of the topics that might be a little edgy. And so this evening we have a good mix of talks, both from newer speakers as well as those that are more seasoned. So we have 6 contestants. You get 15 minutes, like I previously talked about. And we have the judges who are on hand. And so the idea here is to come up, have fun, give this great talk, and then have the judges in a fun and entertaining way just give some feedback so that, you know, you can take it to the next level the next time. All right, so this year, starting on the end here, and I'll let them give their own quick little intro, is we have Space Rogue.
Hi. I don't know, I currently work at IBM, X-Force. I wrote a book. I was in a group a long time ago. That's about it.
He was in the original InfoSec boy band.
What's that?
The InfoSec boy band, known as Loft.
Oh, the InfoSec boy band, yes. Known as Loft. Yeah, that was me.
I think Space Rogue has been a judge every Firetalks that I can
except
remember.
for, I think, the first 1 or 2,
Okay.
and I missed one for a broken leg. So other
Cool.
than that, I've been at all of them.
Great.
I'm Katie Masouras. I'm the founder and CEO of Luta Security. I think I've been a judge maybe 3 times before this. I don't remember. The pandemic, like...
I think you're second behind Space Rogue in terms of longevity.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, the pandemic, I skipped a bunch of years there because I didn't want to die. And, but here I'm willing to risk my life for all of you.
My name's Kimberly Price, and I used to be known as Kim_Possible on Twitter, but I don't Twitter anymore, so I'm now Kim Possible on Blue Sky, I think. As we discussed earlier, I'm not on Mastodon. Anyway, so I do security. I've done it for a long time, and I am the founder and CEO of Zadig Security. We're fractional AppSec. So, and this is my 3rd time judging Firetalks. The 2nd time I judged Firetalks and knew what the hell I was doing. So it's going to be great.
Thanks. So just a quick reminder too. So they're going to be judging sort of 1st, 2nd, 3rd place. The winner gets $500. Usually that's in a form of an Amazon gift certificate. And the winner also usually gets a ShmooCon ticket for the next year. And then 2nd place is $250 gift certificate of whatever, and then $125 for the 3rd place. But anyway, that's all I really have, and I think we're pretty much on schedule. Does anybody have any questions? This is what I get from like training for like 5 years straight. is at the end of the intro, I tend to ask if there are any questions, but I guess we're good. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to
Wait,
Maddie.
aren't we supposed to talk about the bribes?
Bribes.
Have you guys
Bribes,
discontinued the bribes?
Thank you for bringing that up.
God, it's been a long time, but seriously, I thought the bribes were still happening.
There's a big tradition here at Firetalks of bribing the judges, which
Yeah.
has no impact on the actual outcome at all.
Not really, no, we just
No,
like bribes.
but we like bribes.
I mean, it might
You have
impact
money
the outcome.
or alcohol, or last year we got lasagna. You all missed the lasagna.
Oh, lasagna
So,
was good.
all right, so
lasagna.
I'm not removing my mask for any of those treats. So if you are to bribe me, I recommend bringing a puppy or a kitten because I would like to pet a soft animal. Yeah, and it can be a stuffed one as well, as long as it's not like a creepy, ooh, yes. First bribe received and accepted temporarily. I'll give it back. All right, thank you. So now that we're clear on bribes, right? Yeah.
Does a phone book count?
I don't want to pet a phone book.
All right, so we have Maddie giving one of her first talks here, so I'm going to just turn it over to
And-
her.
Grex, can you turn the monitor so we can see the slides?
Will do.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Hello. My name is Maddie. Okay. Check. Okay. Hope y'all can hear me. Hello. My name is Maddie, and as just said, this is one of my first talks ever. And thank you. And I will be leaning hard into this year's theme of time travel with looking into the past, how reflecting helped me grow as a new professional. And before I introduce myself, I'd like to say that as a new speaker, I don't think I'm qualified to offer a real bribe, so I hope legible slideshow speaks for itself. Yeah. Okay. Jokes aside, a little bit about me so you know where I'm coming from. In July, I started as a cybersecurity engineer at the MITRE Corporation in the Cyber New Professionals program. And that was after graduating in June with my bachelor's degree in computer science from Drexel University. So, go Dragons! And now I shall commit the nigh unforgivable speaking sin of repeating somebody else's metaphor. I know the DeLorean was used earlier in the night, but let us go back in time to specifically my past as I talk about my internships and the things that I really only realized that I learned from looking back on them and really thinking about my accomplishments. The first thing I want to say that I learned through this process of reflection is to understand your tools. And when I say understand, understanding what something does is different than understanding how it works. And that is a dangerous distinction that I didn't quite get for a little while. So if you are unfamiliar with Drexel University, something that's important to know for this presentation is that Drexel leans hard into career education. Essentially, I had 3 6-month work periods built into my degree, and they counted for credit. So this is going to cover some of that work. Exposition aside, my example is Strelka. I first encountered Strelka when I worked in a SOC. And at the time, Strelka always seemed like it was a satellite pretty far off in the solar system orbiting around what I would probably say is the SEAM and the detections and the incident response and the general need to always be prepared and to process data. It wasn't something that I even really worked with a ton. If I had to say coolest tools I used on my internship, I would list the aforementioned SEAM. I would list PowerShell because that was the first time I'd really used it and seen what it could do. I wouldn't have said Strelka, the thing that sits on the edge of the network, ingesting files, comparing them against YARA rules, and telling us if it's found anything. So, in a way, you could say that I only looked at Strelka as being used in one way, in one context. However, I then ended up getting an internship at MITRE during my next work period. And they said, hey, you know what this Strelka thing is. That's pretty rad. Do you want to spend 6 months working with Strelka? And yes, I did spend a little bit of time wondering what I could possibly do with this for 6 months. But Strelka is actually really cool. As noted before, it's an enterprise file scanner. It's developed by Target, and Yara is just one of many possible scanners. You can write your own. It's on GitHub. You can download it, take it apart, put it back together. And honestly, it was my first exposure to a lot of things. The process of research in a structured environment that wasn't a science class. Containers. A lot of development tools, even though my degree was in computer science. And I realized that I'd had a very narrow, situationally driven view of this tool. I understand why the SOC I worked with used it the way it did. But now, I saw that it was much bigger than that one situation. That it had a lot of moving parts and was really complex. It fostered an interest in static analysis for me that carried through to my senior project at Drexel University. And it was humbling and cool. I really now have to recognize my own hubris that just because I've seen something used one way doesn't mean that's the only way it will ever be used. And I need to use my own time and put my own efforts towards learning other tools that might not necessarily be in my immediate sphere, so I can be a better contributor in the future to these larger projects and better contextualize the information I have with whatever the rest of my team is doing. The second thing that I want to cover that I ended up learning by thinking back has to do with something that I saw over and over at Drexel: iterative development. You do a freshman design project. You do your senior design project. You do design classes and project management classes in between. And I realized that what my perception of Agile from those experiences and my perception of development as an iterative process was actually really warped. A lot of the time during my first 2 co-op positions, I often worked largely independently on tasks that I was kind of just trusted to complete and come back. And it was one task at a time. So when I was presented with essentially a to-do list, like class, I treated things as being checked off and present to the teacher for revisions, which I got. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, being at MITRE in a research position where I worked on one project for 6 months instead of a bunch of little tasks that took different amounts of time through my day, I had to adjust my expectations. Because at first it felt like I wasn't actually accomplishing anything. I was just treading water and the same steps of the research process over and over, because I didn't quite know what I was doing, and my supervisors caught on to that pretty quick, as they should. And they kept advising me to make it better, and things I could learn, and avenues I could explore. But since I'd only ever seen progress through these development and research projects in larger, well-defined steps, I didn't quite recognize that I was making progress. So I had to do some thinking and change my own mind. I had to redefine what it meant to make progress and to see things as completed. And suddenly it felt like I wasn't just treading water, doing the same kinds of information gathering, and not actually moving forward to other and different tasks. I was. I just didn't know that this was the kind of thinking I needed to do research. And to do it well, that's another key. Not just rush through, that's one of my weaknesses. And this is something that actually continues to stick with me. One of the things that I work on now at MITRE is the attack defensive team. So when you're looking at attack on a technique page, this is the mitigations, the analytics, and the detections. And that's really cool. It's a really neat project. But for a while, I was looking at a lot of information that we had collected, and I was comparing it to see if it was still valid and that we had actually properly covered techniques, especially with regards to sub-techniques matching parent techniques. And attack, if you are familiar with it, uses a lot of open source resources. And that meant I was doing a lot of Googling, a lot of looking at things that already existed. And sometimes that felt like, well, I've been in this degree program for 5 years. I'm this new professional. I'm ready to go. So what am I doing? The answer was still making a difference. I just had been so caught up in the fine details of what I was doing, the same way I had been with my earlier research project, that I hadn't realized that, yeah, behind the task that I was only seeing a very small part of, there were bigger machines moving. And it feels really good to recognize that my contributions are helping to maintain the integrity of attack so that it maintains its reputation as a trusted resource. That is super cool. And that's exactly the kind of work that I wanted to do as a cybersecurity professional. So I guess my overarching point, and my third, is that by reflecting, I'm actually looking into the future, not necessarily just my past. I am maybe sometimes looking at my mistakes and cringing a little bit, because who doesn't? But I'm also looking past the stuff that I've done and the naive actions I've taken in ways I've looked at things to try and see how I can grow from that situation. And I've given a few examples on the previous slide. Another example might be, say, group work in college. Like, for a while, it wasn't something that I was super thrilled about. Being in the workplace, there's nothing I do that's not in a group. If I had not had the opportunity to do that in so many different scenarios, and to have it be good and have it go bad, I wouldn't know how to treat others, and I also wouldn't be able to hold other people accountable for how they treated me. I wouldn't know how to advocate for myself and my strengths. And likewise, I wouldn't know when to ask for help. So yeah, something as silly and as hated as group work turned out to matter a lot. Another example is documenting code. For a while, yeah, I was arrogant. I didn't necessarily want to document, or I left it to last. And yeah, turns out if you approach your code with documentation in mind, doing it as you go, even helping to document code that you want to learn about, you learn faster. You jump in faster. You make fewer mistakes, and ultimately, you hit that ground running that you were so eager to do. And that's thrilling to me. That's thrilling to realize that I have grown as a person and as an engineer. And I'm not giving this talk just to talk about myself. And I also want to say that I'm not trying to propose reflection as a silver bullet. It's not. It's not going to magically cure your issues. I was really lucky. During my education at Drexel, I had a lot of fantastic experiences and mentors. In all 3 of my co-ops, I worked with incredible people with great technical knowledge and a passion for working with these co-op students. That's not everyone's experience. That's not everyone's experience in college, at Drexel, or in the workplace. And if your situation is awful or abusive, then by all rights, there are other ways to learn than reflection. So please don't act like I'm saying this as the be-all, end-all. You can be great and stand on the stage. if you just think enough. That's not the point. Anyway, I know I'm running short. My last thought has just escaped my mind, and I am sorry about that. So I'll wrap it up with another time machine and allow us to travel back to the present for the next Fire Talk. And I would just like to thank everyone for having me up here and for hearing me out. Thank you very much.
That'll wait.
Gotta end it with a bang.
Whoa. Sorry about that, guys. All right, judges, if you want to, okay, I guess you can.
Yeah, I guess.
Go ahead,
Roast
Space
me.
Road.
You want me to go first? Hey, first talk, congratulations. We love first-time speakers here. Very much a favorite of the judges to have first-time speakers. Love the fact that you were on theme. Themes at ShmooCon are always kind of, I don't know. They've been taking stronger importance the last few years, I think. So I think it's good that you're on theme. And you're right, you had good, legible slides, which is a big problem at Fire Talks every year. And I'm sure we'll see some in a little bit, and I will point out how terrible they are. But these were good. Very few words, nice big graphics. Love the slides.
Thank you. I am visually impaired if you see me around the con, so it was part of my goal to make sure that my slides didn't rely on text to tell the story.
Very
Well done.
good. So I have a rubric that changes with every talk, so be prepared for my polymorphic rubric. First talk ever, 1,000 points. Yeah. First speaker of the night of Fire Talks, 1,000 points. It's hard going first. I really liked, in particular, I liked the well-structured talk, and I really liked the understanding how tools work versus, understanding how they work versus what it does. That is a nuance that usually takes a lot more years than you've been currently practicing cybersecurity to get right. So I gave that one another 1,000 points. And then finally, you recovered from brain freeze, which is something that I cannot do. I just stand there when that happens to me. So I gave that the 10,000 foot view, 10,000 points.
Thank you. Someone got even slightly close to the stage, and my focus went.
Okay, so I live in a depressed economy compared to Katie's polymorphic point system. I also awarded 50 points for a first-time speaker, another 50 points for really leaning into the theme. As Space Rogue said, that's really a nice touch, and it shows that you planned ahead of time and really, didn't just, I have a talk, I'm going to give it, but thought about how can I tie this into the theme. I awarded an additional 200 points for handling a number of distractions, not only somebody walking up in the middle of your talk to put something on the table, but there were people talking in the audience, which I found distracting as a judge, and I can't even imagine as a speaker how distracting that must be. So while I'm awarding you 200 points, I'm giving the audience minus 10 points. Stop that shit. Be polite to the speakers and don't talk during their talks, please. And then I have an additional 10 points because I like your dress, and another 400 points for accessibility. Thank you. It was an excellent talk.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad that I get to pat the moose.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot one of my notes. I'm so sorry. There's an additional 500 points for use of the word exposition. I like big vocabulary words, and I cannot lie.
All right, so we'll go down for a few minutes while we wait for the next speaker to get set up. Anybody?
Should we play 20
Ed?
questions or something?
Is Edward?
You don't have any, like,
Oh, here he comes. Okay.
African or North American?
I just need HDMI key.
So about Maddie's talk, the one thing that I want to point out is, like, I'm right here. she was a good 4 feet back from the mic. So great projection. I don't have a vote here, but great projection on her part. So let's see if it gets going.
It's the red cord, right?
Yeah.
We don't have any interlude music?
Hold on. It should go automatic. Switch. Is it gonna work?
Oh, there we go, we do
Oh, I
have
like
music.
the beats.
Ask and you shall receive.
Oh, did you get it? Okay.
Are we getting? Wait, are we getting any mirror?
No, we're not getting it.
What year is it? 2050? We still
It
can't
should just
do
be plug and
monitors?
play. It's doing something. Seen it?
So the lights are really unusually bright this year. I don't know if you can tell that in the audience, but up here on the stage, they're like 10,000 suns at it.
Okay, good. Oh, well, there's something up there.
Oh, we got something on the screen.
Math.
It's showing your other screen right now.
Intra-app collusion?
So if you go, are you mirroring it or?
I'm just trying to. So, for multi, technical difficulties here. It's only 2 options. I thought extension would do. Well, what does it look like?
Oh, here. Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me just kick
Sorry.
you on. Let me just
Seen
kick it
that.
over to. I can.
Can you see it? Okay, cool. All right. We are ready to go. So next up, we're going to have Edward Warren here. Thanks for submitting. Looking forward to your talk here on inter-app collusion. Very neat. Edward?
Hello, testing. A little too close. All right. So I definitely want to welcome everyone for coming out to Firetalks and listening to my presentation. This is my first time at ShmooCon, and honestly, I never thought I would get tickets, let alone have the honor of speaking on stage. So I want to thank everyone again for their time and for checking out my presentation. Apparently, I broke my my clicker on the way here, so I'm going to be doing this manually. Now, before I get into the weeds of it, I just want to go over a brief agenda. It'll be who am I, an overview of Android security challenges, and some mechanisms for inter-app collusion, alongside case studies. Now, the reason I'm going to provide a little background is that this presentation is based on several months of research I performed in 2023, and one thing I would like to keep note is that keep this moving here. All right, so who am I? I am currently a security analyst at Sidara. I do want to let everyone know, however, that I am speaking on behalf of myself as an independent security researcher, and any views or opinions expressed are solely my own. But Sidara is an awesome company that provides MSSP services along with penetration testing services. But what's more important is what I like, and I like bugs, whether it be digital bugs or software bugs or even gameplay or mechanic breaking bugs in one of my favorite card games, Magic the Gathering. I'm sure a lot of people here may recognize the Misno glitch from Pokemon. Now, when it comes to Android security, processes are isolated alongside applications, and this sandboxing mechanism will be explained momentarily here. I also just want to go over a quick intro. This is my second time public speaking, so if I sound nervous, it's because I am. So
You're good,
please
you're
bear with
good.
me.
Relax, man. Take a deep breath, you're good.
All right, so back to this concept of the Android sandbox. As a lot of people here, I'm sure, are aware of, Android is based on the Linux kernel, and in order to ensure this kind of process isolation, Android enforces the sandboxing idea. Now, if you think about mobile applications, oftentimes, at least me personally, my cell phone is far more intimate than my laptop. I do most of my banking transactions on my phone. I do most of my shopping on my phone. I may even look at a dating app on my phone. So in order to maintain security, we're going to go into how Android accomplishes the sandboxing, but more importantly, 2 case studies that I'm going to show how applications can have vulnerable endpoints that can be abused by a malicious threat actor. All right, so as previously stated before, I did mention the sandboxing. Now, part of how this sandboxing is accomplished is because all Android applications are given a unique identifier at install time. And Android, unlike other operating systems, does enforce this permission-based model. So to do things like access your phone or access the internet, even text messaging, it all requires explicit permission from the user. And as part of this process isolation, when applications are communicating amongst each other, this must be facilitated through something called inter-process communication. For those familiar with like IPC and Windows, you can think of like maybe named pipes or pipes on Linux, or even WebSockets if you're familiar with the Windows platform. All right, so now we're going to go over one of the case studies, but not initially. I'd like to just build up a little bit of contextual information so this makes a little bit more sense here. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look on the left and look on the right, and you see what appear to be 2 application icons. I want you to imagine that the one on the left that has the gears on it will reflect a legitimate utility application. And the one on the right will be an impacted phone dialer. In this case, this is not the standard phone dialer that comes with Android. This is a third-party application, but it is right from the Play Store. So let's think about if a legitimate utility wants to be able to access a phone. It has to send the communication or otherwise facilitate that communication. This is where the intent aspect of IPC comes into play for Android. So if you can just if you look at intent, think of intent like a messaging object. I like to visualize the intent being like a cart on a train. And in order for a train to move somewhere, you need some kind of background railroad. So if you imagine intent being a messaging object, applications, mostly due to the sandboxing restrictions, have to send data by way of intent, and intent can hold an arbitrary type of data. It really depends on the specification, but I'm going to keep it simple for now. So once again, I use the train cart and I use the cart and train and the railroad as an analogy. You can think of binder as acting as the mechanism that allows, in the background, that initiate this communication. Now, this part would just be high level. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, but once again, if you're familiar with IPC concept and Linux and Windows, you can just kind of think of pipes as probably the quickest analogy. Now, the issue, though, is that applications shouldn't be able to freely send each other data. That could obviously lead to all sorts of security issues, unexpected input, sanitization. So ideally, there should be a mechanism that prevents it. Now, before I show the next slide, I do want to let you know that because the Android open source framework allows a lot of flexibility. So even though there's certain restrictions that should be in place to keep apps from having privileges that they didn't explicitly request, there are a few ways of bypassing this. So now I want to bring up this idea of an intent filter. Now this is not a firewall, but it gives a quick visualization. And an intent filter essentially, I like to think of an intent filter as kind of like an insect net on a door. So you want to let the good cool air in. You want to keep the bugs out. Just to keep things simple. Now, this intent filter is actually specified. Well, the contents of the intent filter are dictated by the Android manifest. And just like a ship manifest or a cargo manifest on a train, it essentially acts as the central index where all of the application's functionality and permissions are essentially indexed. And we have the Android manifest. So if you think about application A and application B, they want to communicate. In order to get past this boundary, ideally there should be an intent filter preventing two applications from arbitrarily sending information from one to the other. All right, so before I get any farther in about the Android manifest, I just want everyone I'm going to go over a quick explanation for permissions in Android. There's actually 3 types of permissions. There's also special, but to keep things high level, I will briefly go over normal and dangerous permissions. One of the major differences between normal and dangerous permissions is that normal permissions have to be specified in the Android manifest. However, dangerous permissions not only have to be specified, but the system at some point will perform a check to make sure that the user explicitly granted and not that it was just some, if you think about all the, you sign terms of service, you just scroll down and X. Basically, this dangerous permission prevents that kind of buzz, click, and whir knee-jerk response. So one of the permissions we'll be essentially bypassing, I'll be going over is the internet permission, but there are other normal permissions, like waking the phone or changing the wallpaper, or even accessing network information. So all this is all dictated by this permission model. And for internet permission, typically, if it's listed in the manifest, it would just be auto-granted at runtime. You won't get this kind of runtime check. That runtime checks are for dangerous permissions. There's all sorts of dangerous permissions, things like accessing your phone or camera, reading your contacts. Obviously, if these services are compromised, it could definitely lead to all sorts of malicious activity. Now, I point out call phone because there's actually another permission that's very similar to that. We actually, in Android, we have both a call phone and a call dial. And the difference is very subtle. Call phone will allow you to initiate calls without user interaction. Call dial will essentially pre-populate the dialer. So it still would require the user to click something, where call phone doesn't, it just proceeds. All right, so now we have a snippet of the manifest. The manifest in an application is very long. It includes far more entries. This is a small snippet that reflects the issue with a component of the Android activity. Now, this is called inter-app collusion, leveraging improperly exported components. There are many components in Android. It can be things like activities, which you can kind of think of as typical processes. There are things like content providers and broadcast receivers. They dictate things like, they kind of act as like background daemons, and where they're supposed to push information based on different environmental cues. But the important thing, though, to note, though, is that for one of the case studies, which is a phone dialer, and I've actually found this issue in several dialers, it has an intent filter for action call and accept parameters for telephone. The problem is that there's other things that should have been implemented. In this case, it will just blindly accept action call, action telephone without requiring the calling, without requiring the activity that's invoking it to have the same corresponding permission. So I'd like you to think of this scenario. Imagine any application just attempting to place a phone call if you have this dial installed. So in this case, if a user has both the affected call dialer, then any application on their device with no permissions are able to place this arbitrary phone call. And essentially, because of the intent filter, this is accomplished a couple ways. Basically, a 10-digit number specified, and that action call, that dangerous action, happens. Here's where things get more interesting. So Now, this would have been a safe interaction if they had simply just chose action dial, because that would have prevented them from bypassing permission. Or, in addition to that, the manifest could have also just explicitly required that permission be invoked. Let's think about what happens behind the scenes. Normally, for any application to make this kind of request, call a phone, a runtime permission be checked to do one of two things. For one, to make sure that it has the access phone permission and the manifest, and two, that the user actually agreed. So for example, during the installation of this call dialer, you have to explicitly change it to the default caller, as well as a few additional steps, and that's essentially part of where the issue lies. But I'm going to go over some of the. I'm going to show a demonstration momentarily. I just want to provide a little more background information. So in this case, call phone, that permission is listed in the impacted dialer's manifest. So the phone dialer has the permission, but just any random app doesn't. But it doesn't need it because the phone dialer doesn't properly protect its endpoint. So like, for those who work in cybersecurity, you're probably very familiar with defending endpoints, and a lot of times we don't think about endpoints being software-based. In this case, this is an endpoint that's essentially unprotected. All right, so now if post-runtime check, normally what would happen is that this would fail. But due to the poor coding of the application, you're able to place the phone call anyway. And this all boils down to one thing. See this? There's two things that are highlighted here. You see, once again, action call, and you see export is equal to true. That one value, true, is what causes this entire issue. If they had simply just changed, if it simply wasn't exported, because the thing about export activities is that think of an activity as being a portion of an application. So if an activity is exported, it means that another application can invoke it in the context of itself. So like for example, if app A could invoke app B in the context of app B, and that's part of the issue here. But I think, okay, all right. So once again, I want to go over the threat model. Malicious application installed with no permissions can leverage. And once again, I want you to think of a malicious application kind of being like a Trojan horse, a wolf in sheep's clothing. In this case, an application with no permissions is able to leverage it. We're going to go over case study 1, CVE 2023-49002, and we're going to get right to the video. Now, this first demonstration is fairly simple, but it shows, well, it ultimately shows the effects of another application sending an intent. Basically, there were no activities open. A third-party application could arbitrarily send that telephone data and cause an outbound phone call to be placed. Now we're going to quickly go over case study 2, which is a little bit more interesting. In this case study, a TCL mobile browser, this is actually designed for IoT devices, will allow any device to arbitrarily execute code. We're right at the end here. And once again, this is accomplished because this application just allows too many things. It allows unrestricted JavaScript access, and it allows access to the DOM API storage. So any third-party application with no internet permission is able to essentially get internet access and have unrestricted access of your browser. And we're going to go over some of the nitty-gritty points here, but essentially it accepts the HTTP or HTTPS parameters arbitrarily, and we're going to see what this looks like in action right now. So essentially, if you look on the right, you see an application with no permissions. And now, on the left, this is demonstrating me trying to log on. Now, if you keep watching, what you'll see here is you'll see you'll see me proceed to log on, and you'll see that I was able to reflect back the password. Now, essentially, it's because the browser allows any application unrestricted access. Therefore, because Facebook stores their credentials within the DOM API, you basically can just pull anybody's creds. And the same thing, a similar interaction can happen with other applications. Because with unrestricted access, you can pull things out of JavaScript, and that's how it's demonstrated. And once again, I want to thank everyone for here. I'm sorry that I ran out of time here, but yes. If you want to. And one last thing, I do have a couple bribes. These are, all right, so
bribes.
the audience can't see it, but
Wait,
these are copper coins.
Ooh,
They're moose.
I like coins. Oh my goodness.
One, two.
Is this from Norway?
Yes.
Nice. That's 10,000 points right there. I don't think, I actually collect coins, and I don't think I have any from Norway, so this is a big, thank you very much. 1972, 5 with a moose on it, on brand, nice. I'm gonna just jump in if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So yeah, 10,000 points for the coin. It's obvious to me that you know your material, so that is always helpful when you're giving a talk. Congrats on being a first, you said it's your first talk ever?
Well, this is my second talk. First talk at ShmooCon.
First talk at ShmooCon, very good, thank you. One thing that always helps when you're doing a talk, I think, is practice, practice, practice. And even if it's by yourself in a room looking at a mirror, always good to practice. I think 1 or 2 more practices I think would have been good for you, but still very good. There was a couple of slides you had. I'm only 10 feet away from the monitor. I couldn't read them. So the point size was a little small, especially on those code slides and trying to pull those Android things up that I couldn't read. So other than that, well done, very informative, enjoyable talk. Thank you.
Okay, I concur with 10,000 points for the moose bribe, the moose coin bribe. It was fantastic. Bug enthusiast. Who isn't a bug enthusiast? 1,000 points. Where would we be without bug enthusiasts? You know what I mean? General bravery of doing your first few talks and everything. I'm what they call a seasoned speaker, as in I'm old and marinated. But I still get stage fright, and I still get it every time. So one, practice is a great, a piece of advice and stuff, but give yourself a break for having stage fright, because, it may never wear off. I'm sorry. It may never wear off.
It doesn't go away.
And I tend to dissociate myself, but, good job on that. On the technical side, I loved the fact that you had a slide with dangerous permissions on it. I thought that was very useful. It was a bit hard to read, but I gave you 2,500 points for a useful slide. And then I gave you 10,000 points for the action dial versus action call. You made a safer substitution recommendation, which I thought was super important for this type of talk. So great job there. Thanks.
Okay, so as they're saying, practice helps. Practice by yourself in the mirror is one thing. Get a group of friends together and practice in front of them. It's totally different with an audience. And what's more, don't let them interrupt you as you're going. Have them take notes and then say, this thing here, I have a question, I have a feedback. And that can really help polish a talk. As the previous judges have said, you know your content. And that initial nervousness, we knew before you said you were nervous, and that's okay. And then once you leaned into your content, the nervousness went away because you know what you're talking about. This is your jam, you've got it. And so if you can lean to that comfort zone, that helps. I do think you had more than 15 minutes worth of content. I love that you wanted to give everyone a background, but in a fire talk, there just is not time for that, or it has to be much faster. But Katie's point about bringing up good substitutions is great. So getting to the important part, points. You know, I can't just give you all good points. There have to be those constructive ones around fitting your content to the time. So we're going to take 25 points away from that. However, yeah, the coin is freaking amazing. I love copper. I love moose. Who doesn't love moose? And so that's plus 100 points. But the fact that you apparently managed to get my birth year is an additional 10,000 points. So I now have a birth year copper moose coin. And also, I loved the slides. They were all, I am also seasoned and old, and I went with vanity today and the contacts instead of the glasses. And yeah, so keep in mind your audiences will have a much different viewing experience than you will, and that's the other reason to practice in front of your friends. And actually, like, get a conference room if you can, where they're going to be like, that yellow font on the white background doesn't work for me. Not that you had that, but you know, I've seen talks that did. So great talk, and I hope that you will give this talk again in a longer format at another event where you really have time to go into the details, because I think it was a good content.
Seconded. I would love to see this a long form version of this. Yeah.
Great job.
I mean, I love these bribes and I'm allergic to copper, so there you go.
I was just going to complain about the lack of bribes, but then I'm like still blown away by this coin.
Wait, you got 2 coins.
Well, you want?
In front of me. Did Greg get a coin?
No, I don't know if Greg. I got. Yeah, here. Give this to Greg.
Oh, it's okay.
He's got one down there. 6 total.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. That's
You want
fine. No. If there's 6 total, that's how it works out. You 2 can have 2. You're the OGs.
Well, they're not getting them.
No, like the point I try to make too
They have no interest in
is
my
I've done
coin
like a lot of
collection at all.
training. Hold on. Like I've done a lot of training. I've done a lot of talks and stuff, but literally, I mean, you saw me when I first got up here. I was nervous as hell, so.
Honestly, my first few talks, when I watched the video recording later, I wanted to die. I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad. And that weirdly forced me to get better at them, to be like, okay, I need to stop doing that right there. That's terrible. And so.
How many of you work at large corporations or even small corporations? How many of you work for other companies? All right, yeah, funny, right? Right. Do you think it's a good idea, or have you ever run an internal conference at your thing? All right, we got a few.
Yeah.
All right, well that's,
Have you ever run a conference?
go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying yes.
Okay. Your voice is just louder than the rest.
Sorry.
We may have run some conferences over here for
Once or
internal.
twice.
Yeah, just a
Couple.
few.
A thing called Blue Hat. It's fine.
Anyway, Joe is going to give us his lessons learned on what he's learned. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you for the introduction. Obviously, this is the talk on why I run this internal security conference, and you might want to also. I'm Joe Shotman. I have the obligatory disclaimer that I have to say for work. I'm not speaking on behalf of Truist or any other entity. All opinions expressed are my own. I'm also pretty enterprisey. My work experience is predominantly working for large organizations, worked for a large university, large media company, and a large bank. So not everything I say will apply to you if you work for a smaller organization, but I hope to at least give you some things to think about or possibly use at a larger organization in the future. Another disclaimer, my inclination is for very dry technical talks most of the time. I'm going to try to keep it fun for you, since this is Firetalks. This is not going to be a technical talk like the last one, which is great, by the way. I thought about getting up and confessing to international computer crimes like a certain group last year here, but that seemed like a poor idea. Different redaction, he'll be up next. So to make it a little bit more lively, I will be throwing in some amusingly bad things on the screen. This could be AI art, or it could be stock images. For example, this is what DALL-E 2 thinks that ShmooCon looks like. Or this is the generated I use computers. Since I'm up here on stage, you can probably assume that my day job involves using or possibly abusing computers, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. My actual qualifications for this particular talk, I've been on this part of ShmooCon labs for, I think, 6, maybe 7 years. If you're not familiar with that, we come in and we run the sock and knock for this entire event. I've been staff for 4 years now. This means I've been up on the stage many times before. This is the first time they've given a mic. This may be a mistake. I've also been one of the core organizers for B-Sides RDU. I've volunteered at various conferences, and frankly, I go to too many of them. I'm also staff. You might be noticing a trend here at a certain festival in the desert that's usually renowned for being dry and dusty. In case you can't make it out in the photo, that is in fact my neighbor trying to dry the rain using a leaf blower. Spoiler, it did not work. Last little bit of qualifications, I also worked in concert and event production for full-time for 13 years, so that gave me some experience to rely on. Also, as a brief aside, if you think that my talk sucks, my local HackerCon is coming up. We're a short chain ride away, and if I'm doing a bad job today, come prove me wrong. Pandering to the judges. If you're not familiar, there's a history of pandering to the judges with various things. It could be coins or it could be alcohol.
We are keeping with the melon gourd theme.
Love it. Mighty
So,
cream
like I
liqueur.
said, I was going to generate some AI images to amuse people, and Bruce kind of put some thoughts in my head, and that's not a good thing. So this is the man from American Gothic with a giant gourd. And you actually get a twofer for that prompt, because these were both so bad I had to keep both of them. And I promise I'm going to stop with the gourds for now, mostly. Point is, I'm not quite worried about AI yet. It's getting there, but it's not great. One thing I determined learning this is if you make really bad main art, people don't notice the bad fingers. But I kept going a little bit more with the gourds. This is about where I should stop. And fortunately, I went off to the liquor store and ended my gourd fixation by finding this, which is in fact a gourd liqueur. If that's not to their taste, I also brought what could only be described as a copious amount of bullet whiskey for a 15-minute talk. If I have traumatized you with the gourds, by the way, hit me up for a shot later.
The judging gets more fun the more the bribes are liquid.
But to get to the real talk. So attending a conference like this involves a lot of privilege. And to borrow from William Gibson, privileges here is just not evenly distributed. So a couple of figures about the United States, and these are not from the same year, so they may be a little different now. There's approximately 50.4% women here in the US, not here. 12.1% African Americans, 19.9% Hispanic. LGBT varies somewhere between 5 and 10% on the surveys. And look around. And I'm not criticizing ShmooCon, I'm not criticizing the industry, but there is a big problem with diversity. And there's a couple things that keep people from going to conferences like this. So the first is time off. You know, people are taking an entire weekend off here. There's travel time, et cetera. There's work that has to get done and so on. Childcare, that's a big thing. Getting childcare for a 3-day weekend is pretty important and costly or challenging. Just having the dollars to come here, I mean, I suspect most people probably spend $1,500 if they're coming from out of state. And then getting management support. And this is really bad if you're not in security already. They're not going to say, yes, we'll give you funding to go to a security conference in DC. But they might say, we'll give you funding to put on an internal conference. And that's why this can help. So a brief history of Truist Security Conference. To be clear, I'm standing on the back of giants here. I was not one of the founding members, so I don't get credit for that. It was started in the BB&T days of Truist. I think it was 2017, but I might be slightly misremembering. At first, it was one site and 2 days of content, and we had dozens of attendees. That was a success. Post-merger, if you're not familiar, Truist is a combination of SunTrust and BB&T. We're the 6th or 7th largest bank in the country. We emerged in 2019, and unfortunately, we had this little thing called COVID in 2020. So we had to go virtual only for 2020 and 2021. And at this point, we were running the conference twice a year. It was 3 days of content with a CTF for 3 days, and then 2 days of talks, et cetera. It went stagnant in 2022. We had some problems with management supporting it, and then a couple people left the company, so that didn't happen. But let's fast forward to 2023. This spring, we saw tech companies starting to lay off people and cutting things back, so we knew that there wasn't going to be a lot of travel and training budget for the year. Then, if you're not familiar, there was this little Silicon Valley bank and a different one that both folded within 4 days of each other, and that caused a little bit of a panic and a little bit of a stock price drop. So we really knew that if we were going to say, hey, can I go get funding to go to ShmooCon, that was not going to happen. So I propose bringing it back bigger and better. So this year we did 3 days of content. We had hundreds of attendees. We were in person in 3 different cities and simulcast via Teams. We had a CTF, a lockpick village in one of the cities. We had a hands-on purple team exercise. And one of the things that was great, one of my goals with running this conference was to get people outside of security coming in and learning about what we do. And we had people whose job is wealth management coming doing a hands-on purple team cloud security exercise. I think that's pretty cool. And this was done with a core team of 5 people and help from a bunch of other people within the company, but not a huge outpouring of person hours. So some advantages I just want to go over quickly about internal conferences. First of all, it's easier for some people to talk in front of people they know. Obviously, some people are different. They prefer speaking in front of strangers, but for those people who want to speak in front of people that they know, this gives them an opportunity and a very friendly audience. If you're interested in sending people to speak at conferences, it gives them the ability to prototype, get feedback, work on the slides, get, that yellow font doesn't work, et cetera. And so they can use this to workshop their talks and then go out and speak publicly. It allows you to talk about private things. So I've got talks I give internal that I can never give publicly because it's TLP, right, that we can't talk about publicly, et cetera. This gives you a chance to talk with people who can talk about that with your peers. I know a lot of people are federal or state government here. That's especially important for classified things. You can't go to ShmooCon, talk about classified, and I understand that you would have to do SCIF, blah, 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 but it opens opportunities. One question to think about are your peer institutions doing them. So we're a big bank. The really big banks all have their internal security conferences. By putting on our own, that helps elevate us there. It's great because it leverages existing infrastructure. So part of the challenge of putting on ShmooCon is getting the hotel, doing all the contracts, rolling in, setting up the network, putting things on stage, et cetera. If you're using your existing infrastructure for the company, you don't have all of that. And it's cheap. I think our budget was $5,000 to $10,000, and that educated several hundred people at the company. I think that's pretty great ROI. Some more things about it. We have a security champions program. If you're not familiar with that, that's when you embed, or you don't embed people, but you recruit people in things like operations and development, or just working in banking, and you find the people are really interested in security and get them fired up about it, and then they evangelize security to their peers for you. And so we brought in our security champions, and they had a great time. It was their first hackerish con. It helps decrease the silos. It gets people talking, sharing information. It increases empathy. Like I said, I had people who do wealth management talking with people who do security and helping to understand why we say, oh, you have to do this thing that's really inconvenient for you. And at the same time, it helps security practitioners understand by talking with people who do the actual business work. This is what makes the company money, so how can we best accommodate that while keeping things safe? And just in general, it helps build community. We're social creatures for the most part. We like going out, we like eating meals together, et cetera, and this gives a chance to come together. I hope that it inspires some teammates. I talked with one guy at the after party the last day, and he said he wanted to submit but didn't know what to talk about, and so we started talking. He does forensics, and then he started talking about things that he can do to keep kids safe at home, or kids safe on the internet, and that's a great way to get people's interest, because at the end of the day, most people don't care about the companies, like the founders do, the people who are getting lots of RSUs do, but at the end of the day, people care about the kids, they care about themselves, they care about their family, their parents, especially as they age and start getting into the demographics that are being exploited pretty badly these days. So I was able to talk with him and say, look, there is this information that you have in your brain that you can share with people that they would be interested in having. And it's ongoing learning for everyone in the company. I like the idea that learning is like a shark that stops swimming. If you stop, you're just going to sink and die. Some lessons I learned in this particular one and in previous years: have a longer break between talks. So this was kind of like when people go from high school to college, like going to con like here, I'm used to people coming in and out all the time, and people are just used to that. We didn't leave a long enough break necessarily, and people were kind of not taking the bio breaks they needed. So having a longer gap was one of the lessons to take away. Aiming towards the blue side of thing. This may not apply to you if you're a pen testing firm. Senior management in the past, before the merger, was kind of like, do we really want to be teaching people to hack? Because then they're going to start doing things they shouldn't on the network. So making sure that you've got like a balance towards the things that actually keep the company secure that you're teaching them is good. I can't guarantee that this will work, but you can possibly use it to head off some of the return to work effort. If you're saying we're going to get together and do these 3-day conferences twice a year, if they're genuinely interested in increasing communication between teammates, maybe this will give you some more flexibility as far as staying hybrid. One thing is, do you have big enough rooms? We sold out of one of the 3 locations pretty quickly, and we were in the largest conference room we had in that building. So that's something to think about. In this case, we were doing it via Teams also, so people who couldn't attend physically could still see it. But you might want to think about renting a room that's larger at a conference center. They're actually pretty cheap, or seeing if your vendors have a room that they'll let you use. The first couple of years, we had most of the people who were working the con speak also, because we didn't have that much interest, but this year we had a lot of submissions for the CFP, so that took care of that. And one great thing is get some speakers from the government. Again, we're really big and we're a bank, so the government likes talking to you, but we get speakers from the FBI, and that's always really popular. And groups like CISA will send people to speak at your conference if they can. Some stuff that worked, Lockpick Village. This is your secret weapon for getting people who don't do security and security. Like I said, we could only do it in one room this year, but I think half of the attendees picked at least one lock that day. And it just keeps people fired up. Derek Rook, who teaches for SANS, did kind of similar things back in the day at a company he worked at where he did lockpick villages. And he found that he would recruit people, his security champions, by finding the people who were interested in subverting things by teaching them how to pick locks. The CTF also worked really well. It gets people interested in doing the hands-on exercises and that sort of thing. And especially when you're looking to recruit people into a more advanced technical role, the people who have the passion to excel in the CTF, those are some of the ones you want to be recruiting. A few things that didn't work. So I thought it'd be a good idea to put a 1-hour break before the party so that people would have time to talk a little bit and check email before we're going to the after party. People just left, so I don't recommend that. Having disparate conference rooms, we had very different levels of service between some of the different locations, and that's just a bump to be aware of, so keep that in mind. Individual laptops, we had people bringing up their own. If they're not used to swapping in and out quickly on stage, it didn't work. Just have a single laptop and people send you the PowerPoint or whatever they're using. We didn't message quite enough out security, and we tried hard, so I can't give you a good solution, but that's something to think about if you want people outside of security. And this is entirely on me. It's nothing to do with an internal conference. I was running B-sides and this within a month. I don't recommend that. A couple more things to think about. Do you want to be above or below the radar with management? So the first year we just kind of did it and it became a thing, and then we said we're doing this thing again, and management said yes. And then this year I went to the CISO and said, hey, can we do this big thing? And he said yes. Different strategies will work depending on you and your company. So think about that ahead of time. How do you want to balance internal and external speakers? Having some outside is nice, having the big name or whatever, but you also have things like, are they going to sign an NDA? Are they going to stick around for your private talks, et cetera? So think about whether you want internal only or some mix and how to do it. Also think, do you have any vendors who you spend lots of money on who will send people to give talks and or train sessions, and they might actually buy you food, or everyone for food. So that's how we kept the budget down, was leveraging vendors that were happy to work with us. Again, we're enterprising, may not work for you. What are some of the things that, the biggest question management will ask is, what are we going to get out of this? They will like to see the return on I. So think about your KPI, your key performance indicators. If you say we're going to have N%, we're going to have Y 100 people, we're going to do this or that. Think about what defines success both for them and for you. Resources, if you've not seen it, Bruce and Heidi do on the con every single year pretty much. They will teach you everything they know about running a conference. There's years of them on YouTube. So my thanks. So I would first like to thank my coworkers. The title of the slide is why I ran the conference, but it was a team effort, and I was the ringleader, but I could not have done it without them. They were fantastic. I'd like to thank my boss for giving the direct support for it, Crex for organizing it, the judges, Bruce, Heidi, the staff in general, you for giving me 15 minutes of your time. Questions, catch me later. And I'm done.
Minus 5 points.
Wow. Right at 15 minutes, too. Nice.
The test run I did right before this was 14 minutes and 59 seconds exactly.
Okay. So before I get to I do have a question. Have you done any remote stuff in your internal con?
Yes. So
How did that work?
2020, 2021 was entirely remote. And then this year we did hybrid with everything was both in person one day in each of our 3 locations, and then remote on Teams every single day. And then everything was also recorded, so we're building an on-demand archive, so as we have new people come in, they can see some of the earlier talks.
Did you fund travel for people to go to one of those locations?
Only the core organizers. We did.
Oh, okay.
We had to keep things to the bare minimum, so it was a few of us that went to each of the 3 sites.
The other question I had, and I think you answered it, was executive buy-in. How do you get them to approve basically 3 days of no work for everybody?
In a more normal economic environment, we would be sending more people off to conferences anyway. So we framed it as we're dropping it in place, but keeping the costs much lower.
So great talk. We do a similar thing at IBM X-Force. We have an internal con, we call it RedCon. but it's 100% remote and always has been. But it works great. We have talks that are not just security talks. People come and give talks about their hobbies and whatnot, and it's really, really a fun time. I wanted to mention that Truist is my bank. I hate their website, but I'm really glad that there are people that work there. It makes me feel a little bit safer that my money is there.
I appreciate that.
It sounds to me like you were pushing the time limit, and that was an explanation for your speaking cadence. I found it to be very quick and maybe a bit distracting from your content. And your intro seemed to be long, but it was good and entertaining. So I'm not going to dig you on the intro, but I'm wondering if maybe you take a few sentences out of the intro so you can slow down your cadence a bit. But other than that, great talk, great presentation. Highly recommend Internal Security Cons.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have auditory processing delays, so definitely a +1 on what you were saying in terms of slowing down your speech. I did feel like I was at a Firetalk auction. Like, there was a little bit of that going on. But pandering to the judges deliberately placed as like an agenda item in your talk, 10,000 points. And I would say the specific pandering to me, who already declared I wasn't taking off my mask, I call that the Pander Express, 10,000 points. The disturbing Dolly humor, that was like a plus and a minus 5,000 points. You netted 0 on that one for me, because I was like equally disturbed and entertained.
That was my goal in life.
Yeah, but real talk, the bringing up the very real issues, the economic barriers, the, family obligation barriers, all of these things that are essentially driven by privilege, and that you were driving towards an equity outcome for doing these internal, plus virtual hybrid talks. I thought that was great. 10,000 points.
I absolutely hate going after Katie.
We can switch the order.
I'm like, she talked about that, she talked about that, okay. I agree on pretty much everything the prior two judges have said. I did really love that you incorporated gourd art, because it's not like you had a lot of lead time on gourd husbandry. So that is definitely some agile mindset there in terms of last minute revisions to the slides. So I am nervous about the booze because I am lactose intolerant. So we'll see if I regret this later, but right now, oddly, I mixed the whiskey with the lemon liqueur, or the melon liqueur.
Is that what that is? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a melon liqueur, and
It's
I
very
mixed it
strong,
with the
I'll
whiskey,
tell you that.
and it's not. It's actually pretty good. But in 2 hours, I may be deducting points. We'll see. But and the bottle's pretty, so an additional 100 points there. Absolutely, hands down, you bring more security content when you bring it on your corporate campus. When Microsoft started Blue Hat, which is something that Windows Snyder and I started, it was Windows' idea, and I was the tactical help her get stuff done person for the first one. And then I ran the next couple. And the way we pitched it to leadership was, look, we're not going to send everybody to Black Hat, but I can bring some of the best Black Hat speakers to us, and we can do something here, and we can have even more engineers get security training from some of the best. We can have these folks have the hallway conversations. And so I liked that you called out things like give people breaks so that they can have the time to build the relationships, because internal security conferences are training, but they're also building that connective tissue between the people who need to have the engaging conversations. And so finding that sweet spot of we need longer breaks, but not a long break before the party, is a little bit of trial and error. So if you're thinking about doing an internal security conference, the fact that we have a speaker who's volunteering to answer your questions, go ask them. Like, go get that extra help from the folks that are offering it. Long-winded way of saying, I really like the talk. Everything they said is true, so multiply by 2 and divide by 0.75.
All right, so this is a new speaker.
Who is this guy?
I have no idea. So this person came up to me and they were like, just started talking to me like they knew me, and I'm, trying to be nice about it. And like, oh, good, it's nice to see you, blah, 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 right? And then I realized who it was. All right. And did I time it good?
Yeah, you're good.
Is it going? All right.
You're good.
And so, we have to pause. And so, he's going to talk about how he got this way, and I mean, just bravo. So Ray Redacted is up.
Thank you, Greg, and I appreciate that. But before I start, I just want to say a couple things before I actually start my timer here. It was announced earlier today that ShmooCon next year is the last year forever. And I want to tell you how important ShmooCon and even Firetalks has been in my entire career. And I want to just take a moment to thank, let me take off my mask here, to thank the judges and the people that put this together, because every year I've been at ShmooCon, I've done a fire talk. Some years were better than others, Katie. But I really do want to thank Zach and InfoSec Barbie and everybody up on stage here, because they've been an absolutely huge influence on our entire industry, and let's give them a round of applause. I do have bribes, but I'm going to save them till the end because they'll be funnier if I do it at the end. My name is Ray Redacted. If you know of me at all, you probably know of me from Tribe of Hackers or from Firetalks here at ShmooCon, or maybe from Darknet Diaries. And I want to talk about metabolism hacking. I want to talk about something that I've been through. But before I do that, I just got to quickly give you some disclaimers. Number one, nothing you're about to hear is medical advice. Number two, fat shaming and body shaming is bullshit. Obesity is a very, very complex disease. It affects around 43% of Americans. 76% of Americans are overweight. 12% of Americans have metabolism health, meaning they're metabolically healthy. So we have a very, very big trend towards everyone going towards type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. A massive, massive amount of people will have prediabetes within the next few years. And I'm going to talk about obesity in terms of BMI, but I want to tell you up front that BMI is bullshit, okay? BMI is the measurement of your weight in kilograms divided by your height in millimeters squared, and it's a rough linear number. If you were going to program something about health, you would never do something that brute force. Now, that being said, in June of last year, my BMI on this chart was what they used to call morbidly obese. Morbid obesity. They no longer call it that now. We now call it class 3. And this is what I looked like in June versus today. Okay? So here's what happened. I had a moment of awakening where I just decided that I actually do want to live to 70 or 80 or 90 years old. And I thought about going and trying to get Ozempic. I thought about getting weight loss surgery for my stomach. And by the way, I'm not blaming anyone who does those things at all. Absolutely, whatever you want to do to take control of your own health or to hack your own metabolism, do so. But I have an autoimmune disorder, and I was taking prednisone, and so those were basically medically ruled out. And it occurred to me, you know what, Ray? Why are you trying to solve this in any other way than you've solved anything else? Just hack it. Hack it. All your life you've hacked things. And so when we talk about hacking, we usually talk about a kill chain, right? And it starts with reconnaissance. And my reconnaissance meant that I went to medical school. I went to the YouTube medical school. And I stumbled upon this book called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia, okay? And he talks a lot about something called insulin resistance. And what insulin resistance means, and what he says, is that big food, not big pharma, because they're also involved, but big food has engineered food today to no longer be marijuana or cocaine, but to be crack. And we are all addicted to highly processed foods that cause us to generate insulin, that cause us to then have an insulin response, that spike our blood sugar. All of these things are happening so that you're hungry 30 minutes later. If you think about what we call Chinese food, what Americans call Chinese food, right? Heavily processed, heavy on starches, you're hungry 30 minutes later. Well, if you manufacture cereals, that's the best of all worlds. You've got them hooked, and they'll be back in 30 minutes. But there's another side to that equation, and that has to do with glucagon. And interestingly enough, Ozempic actually targets this particular response signal. But what I found out was, in order to hack my metabolism, because my metabolism was severely damaged by years of prednisone, by COVID, by inactivity, by bad habits. But in order to do that, the secret lies in a box that most of you probably recognize. And I'm not even going to tell you something you don't know, because everyone here already knows this. The secret, that is not a we, that is an N-E-S. And the secret is this. If you want to fix your metabolism, if you want to reboot it, if you want to remove the malware from your metabolism, from years and years of eating processed food or having bad habits, it all comes down to N-E-S, and that's nutrition, exercise, and sleep, okay?
I was gonna say, take the cards.
And you can't do it if you only do two. You have to have all three. So I started reading about this, and I discovered that there's this Dr. Peter Attia writes about using a device that you can implant inside your body called a continuous glucose monitor. And what actually happens is you implant this thing in your arm or your belly, and it monitors your blood sugar at all times. And what they found is that 90% of people wearing CGMs change their behavior in a more healthy way, either eating, sleeping, or exercise. Hi, Gary. So, before I get more into that, I have to tell you something. In 1924, Western Electric was trying to discover what kind of light bulb would make American workers more productive. And they found out something fascinating. What they found out was, it didn't matter what light bulb they tested, the workers got productive no matter what. And it really comes down to this. What is measured is managed. When the workers thought they were being watched for an experiment, they all worked harder. And that's really what happens with CGMs. Now, in the United States, you cannot get these devices without a prescription, but wouldn't you know it, if you get on Instagram, or if you get on X, or if you get on Mastodon, you'll see ads from 3 different companies that will provide these CGMs along with some machine learning AI bullshit, okay? And you could put these devices on you. But they're expensive. I mean, they're expensive, right? They cost a lot of money. And you could basically end up with either the Libre or the Dexcom or the Medtronic. Well, we chose the Dexcom because we can hack the shit out of those. We could make those last 90 days each instead of 10 days each, all right? And I'm gonna talk about that. But what you do is you get a little package like this. It's got a continuous glucose monitor, it's got a bottle of glucose, it's got some stickers, and an app on your phone. Now, that data, your blood sugar, is your data. It is your PHI. It belongs to you. It does not belong to some cloud provider, some other person out there selling it. It's yours. And it's sent to your phone over Bluetooth, unencrypted. So, what happens is you go through your normal day, and it shows you something like this, and red is bad. Anything in the purple, you're losing weight. Anything there. And you want to maintain your time in range, TIR, and your average glucose. As long as these numbers are below 116, in my case, in your case it might be 120, it might be 130, as long as they're below 100, you're losing weight, period. It's that simple. You put a device on your arm, and if you keep your blood that low, then you're in good shape. The problem is, when I first started, was my blood looked like this. And by time in range, purple is good, red is bad. That's September 2023 on the left. I think it's on the left, yeah. Okay, and over time I started to figure out how to get it down and keep it down. And some of it was really easy stuff. Some of it was like, don't eat pizza, okay? But other stuff was not intuitive. It turns out that you can eat pizza if you eat a salad right before, Or if you drink water or apple cider vinegar right before, you can keep your blood flatter and not have those spikes. Because here's the deal, the spike is what makes you hungry. If it stays level through exercise, sleep, diet, water, whatever, you're not going to be hungry again. And so I had this kind of breakthrough around October and November where I suddenly hit this certain tier. And it all comes down to NES. That's nutrition, exercise, and sleep. So here's an example of nutrition. On the left is a pizza from Papa John's on an empty stomach. On the right is a cauliflower pizza from Papa John's, which they charge twice as much for, and it's really tiny and won't satisfy you as much. But the blood sugar is even from then on, okay? And with exercise, I'd always heard all my life, do high-intensity interval training, HIIT. Everyone said, go in and out, in and out. You've heard this before, zone 2 and all that. Well, it turns out when you do that, and this app shows you, it flattens your blood for the whole day because your body's jumping in and out of anaerobic versus aerobic activity. And even with regards to sleep, I discovered that NES also has a lot to do with SNES, the Super Nintendo system, and that is stress. Cortisol gets in your body and makes you have a fight or flight response that we were not acclimated to be in 24 hours a day. And again, tracking this and watching this and monitoring it teaches you all kinds of stuff, but the whole idea is self-experimentation. So I've already mentioned, I can take apple cider vinegar, it will help my blood all day. I now carry around this little breathalyzer thing, which I think is a gimmick, Katie. I don't know if it works or not, but it literally it's supposed to tell you what percentage of your fat versus your carbs you're burning. This is actually supposed to be a replicator of a test you can get like at a high-end lab called RER, and it is pretty close. But ultimately, I uncovered what most of you have probably already figured out, which is the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. So keeping track of your blood sugar is the numerator, but the denominator is your ketosis level. And it turns out if you monitor these two things together, that you can figure out your score that's sometimes called the GKI, it's sometimes called the DBR, that's the Dr. Boz ratio. But ultimately, you want your blood to be as low as possible and your ketones to be as high as possible, because if that number is below 80, you are burning pure fat. Now, in this experimentation process, I uncovered a lot of disgusting stuff. Some of it I'm not going to get into. But one of the craziest things I saw on YouTube was there's all these ketogenic cult members that swear if you just sardine fast for 3 days, meaning you eat nothing but the disgusting fish that come in a can, right here, it will send you into ketosis for days. Well, having these monitors on my body, this glucose monitor and this ketone monitor, I discovered, holy shit, they're right. If you spend 3 days eating nothing but this, your body will burn a shitload of fat. And it turns out you can get a continuous ketone monitor if you know how to get things that aren't legal in the United States. And it will tell you at any time how many grams of fat per minute you are burning right now. So literally, right this second, 10.53 grams an hour. Now there are 454 grams in a pound, and there's 9 calories per pound. So that's about as good as it could get, right? Period. That's about as good as it could get. Now, that's metabolism hacking. But I'm at ShmooCon. I'm at the penultimate ShmooCon, actually, now that I think about it, because next year is the finale. So before I leave, before I get off the stage and get made fun of by the judges for having too many slides, I'd like to talk a little bit about hacking. Because it turns out that there's a very vibrant community of parents of type 1 diabetic children that have been hacking the shit out of these devices for many, many years. And we are within months of having an open source platform for continuous glucose monitoring with an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi and a couple devices that you can either make yourself or you can put them together. The breathalyzer that I was talking about, that they charge like $300 for, and it's all over Instagram, you can actually do that yourself. It's a flow meter. All it does is it looks at how much oxygen you take in and how much comes out, because there's a different ratio between fat and carbohydrates. So rather than spending all this money, you can do that. If you end up with the Dexcom G6, there are ways to reset the transmitters. So instead of them working, or sensors, instead of them working for 10 days, they'll work for up to 90. And there's a way to take the transmitter and jailbreak it and make it last forever. You can literally change the batteries yourself. And there's a program out there called Spike. If you have a jailbroken iOS or a rooted Android device, it allows you to reset these devices, which are very expensive, to last forever. Now, I will tell you, back to my disclaimer, I would never recommend that you jailbreak a device where someone's life is actually tied to it, like certainly not to an Omnipod or an insulin pump. But if you're just doing it to measure your own body, then it's absolutely fine. And the last one I will tell you about is Project Anubis, which is the project where they've actually figured out the firmware and broken it and gotten it wide open. So, in conclusion, I'm on a journey to reconstitute my body and to rehack my metabolism, and I'm using technology to do it, and I'm absolutely happy to talk to any of you about how I'm doing it and how it's going so far. Thank you very, very much. Now, before I hand out the bribes, I do have to ask, is there a judge that wants the sardines? Okay, well, I brought you all sensors. I brought you all Dexcom sensors. Oh. Yes. So you get one of those.
Are these the legal ones?
Of course, by prescription.
Okay. These
Thank you,
legal.
Dr. Redacted.
So I don't know if I should award points or detract points for legality.
Well, it's never been an issue before.
I mean, it's just that. That's awesome. Okay, so first off, I also did not recognize Ray at first when he came up on stage and he's talking about, oh, the stage is backwards this year. I'm like, okay, well, this is clearly someone who's done it before. Who is this guy? And then I remembered the abstract, and I just have to say, plus 250 points for not coming up and telling us about your CrossFit gym. That's awesome. And I love the technology approach to healthcare, and what you didn't say was gamification, but that is what you've done to your brain, is you have gamified your pursuit of healthcare by feeding it data similar to a Fitbit dashboard, where you're like, okay, if I can stay between these numbers, like, you know, if I go do this, if I go do that, like you're doing the basis of how do I give my brain dopamine for achieving the goal instead of give my brain dopamine for having the nachos. And I'm intrigued by your theories and would like to subscribe to your newsletter. plus 150 points for the technology use and an additional plus 100 for the fact that you're taking care of your health and you are no longer class 4 obese, which means you're going to be with us for a lot longer.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, so where to begin on this? Well, first of all, there was a drinking game in the audience when you said ML and AI, so I awarded you those points, 1,000 points for that drinking game. You may drink now if you're partaking. The fact that you use so much data, not just in your own hacking, but you really made the data accessible and it flowed with your story and everything. I love data talks, and so I gave that 10,000 points. The fact that, you know, you are hacking yourself, you took an analytic approach to this, you took, you know, the approach of iterating on what you discovered and feedback and everything, and bringing skepticism, healthy skepticism to what was told to you. I am highly disturbed that the sardine trick works. And I'm also like, you know.
As is my wife, Katie. My wife is not a big fan.
Can you test tuna fish next, or maybe
Well,
salmon?
the problem with tuna fish is mercury. That's the problem. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, but all of that, the talk was fantastic, and I guess I would end this with the fact that I gave you 10K points for the BMI is bullshit point that you made, because seriously, I mean, look, we've all heard it before. I don't lift weights to look pretty like a man. I lift weights to look like a bitch who fights bear in forests.
Yeah, Yeah, going last sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, Ray. You've come up here a dozen times. You've given a dozen great talks. There isn't a lot to tell you how to do a talk. So I did think you had some great creative use of InfoSec metaphors in a non-technically InfoSec talk. So great and good. I'm going to give you extra points for your disclaimers sprinkled throughout your talk. I think it was very important when doing a medical type thing that you have the appropriate disclaimers in place. So good job there. And congratulations on your personal accomplishments.
Spacebrook, I forgot to say something really important. Can I just say one last thing? Okay, and that is, if you have a Flipper Zero, you can fuck with people's glucose monitors.
Okay, did I just say that the disclaimers were a
Under
good
no
thing?
circumstances, no, under no circumstances should you do that. There are children, there are people out there that literally depend on this, not for their own health journey, but for their lives. And when I was at DEF CON, I saw a bunch of people just spraying that everywhere. Just be aware, it's not a prank if it affects somebody's actual life. And that's my last disclaimer, which I forgot. Thank you.
All right.
Y'all better not be leaving.
Don't leave.
Don't leave. You can't go, the plants will die.
This is the NIST 853 talk. But it's supposed to be the best one. And it's supposed to be a very entertaining one. So don't leave. Oh, well. I mean, we can wait for you to come back if you're... No, I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
so I'm
I'm
gonna
talking to nobody, but...
I'm going to start out with my bribes. Since I'm in compliance, by the way, there's lots of audience participation in this one, so you really do want to stick around. You all have plenty of alcohol to drink, but instead of trying to kill your brain cells, I'm trying to keep you alive, being in compliance, so I'm going to give you hand sanitizer.
Thank you.
And also, to help you see clearly, I'm going to give you things that you can use to clean your glasses. As I know alcohol is the standard gift.
That's really going to help me in Space Rogue out.
Well, yeah. So
Let me see.
there's a couple for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this is the good stuff.
Excellent. Thank
Katie,
you.
can I have yours, please?
Sunglasses if you don't wear a prescription. And there you go.
Do they have ones that clean contacts?
I would recommend against cleaning contacts. Now,
Anyway, wait a minute. Is it official? Like, are you starting?
let me put on my glasses so I can see better.
Oh, do you need something to clean your glasses?
You know, that's okay. I think I have one left of my own.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Gary Reimer, and I'm here to explain to you all why NIST 800-53 is awesome. And I have some required disclaimers, and I want to make a couple points, especially about number 3. There's sections in this where there's all caps and it's in quotes. At that point, these are the things that people have whined at me about 800-53, and so I'm used to hearing the whining, so I want you to do your best Gilbert Gottfried and whine it back at me as loud as you can. I'll point at you when I want to hear it, so I want to really hear people do that. Also, there is a part of this contest where there's a cash prize. No, I'm not kidding. Pay attention. Look on the slides. What can I say?
I listen.
Well, if you think about it, I've been doing, you know, if you look at all that's on that presentation screen, you'll see that I've been an educator, an entertainer, and I've been in cybersecurity about 10 years. This is my third cybersecurity conference talk in my life. The first time at ShmooCon. The other was Blue Team Con, so I'm all happy about it. But the point is, if anybody can make this interesting, I think it's going to be me, and hopefully you'll agree.
Why talk about NIST SP?
Thank you. It's useful to people who don't even know it exists. And there's, oh, by the way, one thing I forgot. We do have some people in here who are visually challenged, and I used to be. I've had 9 eye surgeries. I can see pretty good now. But if somebody can't understand my message because they can't read the slides, catch me later. I will talk to you. I want everyone to get this message. I forgot that at the front. This is useful to people who don't even know it exists. It has more uses than some people realize. And we all work hard enough. And frankly, I wanted to give this talk because I'm passionate about it, and speaking at ShmooCon is an honor I'm proud to have. Frankly, the fact that I was selected for this talk means I've already won, whether the judges agree or not. I feel honored to be here. Well, if you think about it, not really, because it actually helps the free world stay free, and it helps every security practitioner, not just Blue Team, and it's one of those rare government documents that is both comprehensive and understandable by normal people. So let me get into that.
Keep the free.
Yeah, it's used by the United States government, and it's used military, civilian, and trust me, those programs that nobody talks about in public, which I'm doing these days now, I think I'm doing better without these. And also the defense industrial base uses it, and our allies end up being impacted by it. And so if all those people use it, they're keeping the whole world safer from our malign adversaries. So let me explain how it actually helps. So Blue Team, obviously, it's a list of things to do. The Red Team, it gives you ideas on the things you should be checking to see if the Blue Team did them. Security managers, it helps with the standard to show due diligence, which helps the board avoid litigation and also helps keep the SEC out of your problems because you or your cyber insurer has to pay you because it's obvious you actually took security seriously.
It's a checklist.
Not. It's actually not a checklist at all. It's a security controls no, it really isn't. It's a security controls catalog with a complete explanation of what the controls are. It's an idea book for the Red Team. And yeah, there are spreadsheets, so there is the ability to use it as a checklist, but they've done all the hard work for you. Also, it comes with other volumes that go with it. For example, 800-53A, which is the assessment guide, and B, which is the baselines. Now, sorry, what? Okay, I'm glad you agree with me. Thank you.
Repeat the question, please.
I think it was just.
No, I didn't. No, he just said he'd agreed. I'm going to go on. So, anyways, baseline controls. So you can use other NIST documents. We'll talk more about them later. If you need a framework, that's 37. 60 helps you figure out how important your data is from the government perspective. It's not a bad guideline. If your stuff is really super secure, you can use the classified, even though you can find it out on the internet, 1253 to help you figure out what controls you should be doing, and the baseline tells you what they should be doing, so because you can't do everything in this catalog, it's just too comprehensive. I'm sure everybody's said that before. The reality is, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback on that one. The paperwork, first of all, every control is tailorable. So if the paperwork that it suggests that you do, you really have a reason not to do, then don't do it. It's tailorable. But having said that, do you really need an acceptable use policy that all your users have to sign so HR can boot them when they do that child porn that they shouldn't be doing in the office? Or more specifically, do you really need your incident response plan written out so everybody can follow it? Yes, you do. So it's a good idea to do the paperwork.
Compliance isn't security.
How many have said that before today? Yeah, I'm surprised that not more hands are going up. 853 doesn't enforce compliance. That's a role of other documents that the federal government uses. It's a security, think of it as a security control encyclopedia. And by the same token, compliance isn't security. I'll give you that. But a lack of compliance guarantees lack of security. Absolutely. Thank you. Now, because it's so comprehensive, they've actually broken the controls down into 20 different families, and it covers everything. I mean, access control is like 1/5 of all the controls, just the one family, but supply chain, risk management, personnel security, physical security, everything is in there. So now we're about to have the contest. So how we're going to work the contest, and I got to make sure I've got my money ready. Yeah, I do. How I'm going to work the contest is I'm going to give you a question. I need you to raise your hand. Don't call it out. And I'm going to ask you the question, and I will call on people, and when someone gets close enough, they will be able to either see me afterwards for the cash prize, or they can come up to the stage and I'll hand it to them. How many total controls are there in this 800-53, including the control enhancements? Raise hands. Which revision? 5. We're doing the new stuff. 20. No, I'm talking about including the control enhancements. So you want to try again? Going, gone. Ryan, that's you. That's right. Yeah, you're Ryan. You're wrong, but you're the closest.
$1.
No, it's 1,007 controls. And that's what I get for knowing people. No, seriously. I mean, when somebody said 20, I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" You know. There's almost 300 controls, over 700 enhancements. Some of the controls are information systems, some are organizations, some are split across both. And it really is that comprehensive. Now, this is a typical security control layout, and like Space Rogue, I absolutely hate eye charts. So let's go ahead and zoom in on a couple things. So in the upper left-hand corner is the control identifier, in this case AU4, and the control name. And then you have organization-defined parameters. So for example, this will make more sense in a minute. This is the actual control. Just go ahead and read this control. I don't have to read the slides to you. But not only do you have very clearly defined controls, you also have a discussion which you can use with management to explain to management what is the control, why do you need it, and then related controls to help you realize that maybe you're not covering the whole thing. Now, the organization defined parameters for this control about auditing, having enough storage space to audit your control records, your audit records, excuse me. If you're, 50 computers versus 5,000, obviously you need a different amount of space. That's why the organization gets to define the parameter. And so there's also control enhancements. And this particular one, I'm going to have to read it to you. It's audit storage capacity transferred to alternate storage. And so, depending on how big you are, you might need to do that and how important it is for you to have the data. And it's the same control structure. Now, this is 853B, baseline and tailoring, and again, you can't read this, so let's go ahead and blow it up for you a little bit. You can see that some controls are on a privacy control baseline. Some controls are only used for higher risk systems. Some controls don't have anything, but you can, as far as they don't make any of the baselines. In this case, it's long-term retrieval capability. But you might choose to tailor that in, especially for the person who worked for Truist, who has financial obligations, or brokerage houses through FINRA, where they have to keep everything for 7 years. So how do you get started? Well, first of all, skip the policy stuff. That was the comment that Bruce made today about falling asleep at page 3. The good stuff doesn't happen until about page 200. Start reviewing, I'm not kidding, Start reviewing the controls in an area that's interesting to you, get an idea what risks exist, then start reviewing other control families, and use this as a resource depending on the others in the role. Now, here's the resources, and I've got to tell you, there's a lot more under the NIST publications. For example, there's 800-60, which is the baselines for various types of controls, 800-63B, which is where we get that passwords don't have to be changed every 90 days anymore. Yeah, I know, isn't it great? 66, which is about HIPAA. 88, which is how to sanitize equipment without a volcano. 161 is supply chain risk management. 201 is cloud computing forensics. 207 is zero trust. 213 is IoT, or as I refer to it, Internet of Targets. And if that's a lot for you to remember, I've decided to put it up here, so feel free to take a picture of this slide, because this is very useful. I'll give you all a chance to get your cameras out. Yep, I see it happening, good. And after that, I'm going to, okay, everybody should have had a chance to get that. If not, you can get it from me later because I'm also a resource. And I don't know if I have any time left for questions because I took my glasses off and I can't see my clock. I've got 3 minutes. So if there's any questions, that's fine. And if there's not, then I can give you all back the room because I don't have to use every last instance and second. Yes, sir.
What's your favorite control?
My favorite control is data at rest, SC28. I love it because the thing of it is you've got to really encrypt the stuff. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't quite, I heard more specified, but I didn't hear specified like what? Well, the longer version of this talk, I actually talk about STIGs. And you can actually, if you know about using STIGs, there's actually files you can download from public.cyber.mil, and that will actually give you very point by point on how to go ahead and configure systems and configure software and configure hardware to make it so it is safe. I had 15 minutes. I didn't have 30. So I do use STIGs. Yeah, it's absolutely excellent. Thank you for calling that up. Is there any other questions? Yes. The control to implement, oh gosh, I can't remember the number right off the top of my head, but it's the one where you have to actually get the control, to, the system to report back that there's problems, because a lot of systems just don't have that built into it.
For people on streaming, the question was, what's the hardest
Oh, yes.
control to
I'm
implement?
sorry.
No problem.
Thank you. I'm a little excited. What can I say? It's my third time.
At what point would a small startup company, in terms of number of people or maybe number of revenue, should they start to implement this?
The question is, at what size in a small company should they start to implement some of this? And the answer for that one is if you have a part-time security person that can go through and look at the big rocks and see to make sure that you're doing them, that's fine. And if this is a reading material, helps them figure out what they need to do, it's worth it. And, you know, but they shouldn't necessarily spend all their time doing this because, you know, you've got to get the stuff done that's really important, and you got to take care of the big rocks before you take care of the small ones. Oh, yes. Do people actually run encryption in FIPS mode? I can neither confirm nor deny. And I think I'm about out of time, so thank you very much.
Okay, I cannot believe that a talk about compliance frameworks was that entertaining. Also, I didn't know NIST had salespeople. You will not believe how many controls we can get in this baby. But what's interesting is, as you're telling this story and as you give this talk at additional conferences, I would encourage you to think about how can companies, getting back to the question about small companies, who are building their engineering standards, not their security standards, their engineering standards. Maybe they also need to build security standards. You basically have some security engineers sitting around going, yeah, we should probably do this thing, and we should do that. Like, this is actually a sourdough starter for them to be able to go through and say, all right, what are the base controls? Let's look through here and choose our own adventure here for our engineering standards to simply implement. So I appreciate the content and the way you framed it for the audience. Love the enthusiasm. Yeah, I think that even like digging in with the blow-ups on the slides, like clearly you thought about the judges and our ability to see, so thank you for that. Overall, in general, I loved the Gilbert Godfrey audience participation and the fact that people actually participated. So because the audience participated, an extra 200 points. The fact that it is still boring compliance, you cannot get away from that, minus 50. And
I took a tough subject, but can I use your sourdough starter line? That's awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, everybody knows what a sourdough starter is since the pandemic. So, yeah, I enjoyed the talk, which I don't often say about these sorts of talks. So, an additional plus 100.
Thank you.
So we'll mix it up a little bit, change the order, keep you guessing out there, Sleepy Land. Yeah, plus a bunch of points for audience participation, always good. Encourage that a lot at Firetalks. For those of you who are thinking of speaking next year, incorporate audience participation. I liked how you had slides that had a lot of small words and then called out the important parts, right? And you used a call out and you made that part bigger. That's good, although you still had a lot of slides with a lot of words on them, which I didn't like.
More finger puppets and crayons, please.
All in all, like Kim said, entertaining talk for a boring subject. So kudos for that. And in total, I'm awarding 7,653.4 points.
Is that on the metric standard?
That's on the metric, always
Okay.
metric,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so third talk in your life, 1,000 points. Fantastic. You know, that was, I don't think my third talk in my life would have come out anywhere near that well, so good job on that. You had a useful slide on there that you paused and told people to take a picture of, because this was dense material that you were covering, and I'm glad you called that out. I should have taken a picture.
Hold on, let me go back.
No, it's okay,
There you
because
go.
I'm judging here,
Oh,
so.
okay.
I loved that you called out that accessibility factor, you know, because there are people with differing abilities to read and parse your slides, and you made that offer very welcoming to folks, that if they couldn't, you know, pick up on it, on the visuals, that you would go over it with them later. You somehow made this talk about standards and frameworks entertaining, which the other judges have all said too, but dude, I co-authored 2 ISO standards, and I don't think I could have pulled that off. So I don't think I even would have tried, so good job. And then the Q&A was lit. I don't understand you people, but here, you found your people. You found them. They're here at ShmooCon for you. Finally, I enjoyed the bribes. You know, the bribes were good. Alcohol, but to keep us healthy, like wild times. So thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Awesome talk. Thanks, man. All right, if you could just bring in a nice beat right now, that'd be cool. Once is one at a time. I'm not even gonna go there.
Is this any of y'all's bag?
Oh, I did mean to say, though, there was a negative on the glasses wipes because they were warm from your pocket. Yeah, I deducted, I don't know, the degrees of warmth have been deducted from your total score.
I'm sorry, you didn't want me to, never mind.
All right. Is it up? All right. I love analogies, especially when they relate to security. And I don't know. Who likes cookies? Who likes cookie dough?
Yes.
Should you eat cookie dough?
Maybe.
I don't know. I think we're going to learn a little bit more about that. Have an awesome talk from, she's hiding. Oh, there she is. Amanda.
So I kind of feel bad about this particular bribe due to Ray's talk earlier. However,
Don't feel bad.
To ensure that you have a thematically correct visual aid, so you don't need to focus on the slides quite as much, I do have some of the cookies here available for your perusal.
Ray, are these approved?
Don't listen to him. Hand him over.
Pass them down, pass them down, pass them.
So let's say that you are walking down an American supermarket aisle and you have a craving for cookies. And so you're looking for some pre-made cookie dough. And you're probably going to find, I'll take this. All right, so you're walking down an American supermarket aisle and you're going to find largely 2 different brands of cookie dough. And you might find some other specialty ones. but most of the ones you're going to see are either Nestle Toll House or Pillsbury. Now, on the surface, you might not think that there is a very large difference between these two brands. However, if you zoom in closely, you're going to find that they have taken very different approaches to not just the production of cookie dough for baking, but whether or not you should actually eat raw cookie dough. So let's start with Nestle Toll House. On the surface, it's a package of cookie dough. Nothing terribly interesting there. However, if you look closely on the back of the package towards the bottom below the barcode, you are going to see the standard warning that this is not a product that should be eaten raw. You should not be eating raw cookie dough. Most of us grew up knowing that one of the largest problems with raw cookie dough is the eggs. Eggs are a carrier of salmonella. And so you should not eat raw cookie dough. In fact, Toll House produced an entirely different product that is made for eating. However, you are not going to find this product in all supermarkets. I had to go to 2 supermarkets to find this. Furthermore, you might not even find it with the cookie dough. I found it with pudding. If I'm craving cookie dough, why am I looking at pudding? On the other hand, Pillsbury took a completely different way of looking at this problem. They went, you know what? We can tell people to not eat cookie dough, it ain't gonna work. They are going to eat cookie dough. So what are we gonna do? We are going to make all of our products useful for baking and safe to eat. We are going to make multi-purpose cookie dough. And that is something that I can get behind, because they have made a product that works for everybody. And if you look on the back of the package, you can see precisely what they have done to make these products safe to eat raw. They have pasteurized the eggs, because it turns out if you heat them to a not quite baking temperature, so you still have an eggy egg, you can kill the salmonella. Same thing with the flour. You can heat treat the flour in order to kill the salmonella in the flour. Yes, flour is also a carrier of salmonella. They're also making sure that the processing facilities are nice and clean and sanitary and all that happiness, so you're not spreading disease through any sort of cross-contamination or what have you. And so, I totally prefer the Pillsbury method because, I can bake a few cookies, I can eat a few, pieces of raw cookie dough, and life is good. I don't have to segment my life among different products. What on earth, now that my clicker has stopped working, does this have to do with cybersecurity? Well, I'm going to posit 3 different things here, 3 lessons we can learn from raw cookie dough. The first is that it is really important to meet people where they are. Pillsbury took the idea that people are going to eat cookie dough whether you tell them to or whether you tell them not to. It's going to happen. Food is for eating. So they're going to make food that is safe to eat. The same way the internet is to be used. The internet is for sending of emails. Emails that have links in them, emails that have attachments, attachments that have macros, that run code on people's computers. People are going to send nude pictures of themselves to each other. That is what the internet is for. And it is our job to help them do that as safely as possible. We need to meet people where they are. The second point that I believe that we can learn from raw cookie dough is that expertise matters. Before I mentioned the bit about flour, who here knew that flour was a carrier of salmonella? A decent few hands, but not all of them. Because we are not, in fact, some of you might be, food safety experts. That is not why we are here. We are cybersecurity experts. And so we need to be the experts in the room that are deciding what are the most important controls. As we learned from the last talk, there's over 1,000 different controls that exist in that catalog. We have to decide which are the ones that matter in that moment, which are the ones our organizations should implement, which are the ones that are going to give us the most risk reduction for the least amount of effort. Because I don't know about you, but I want to be lazy, so I want to spend as little effort as possible. And so it is our job to apply that expertise, to be that person. And third, and finally, transparency is best. The best controls are the sorts of things that the user doesn't even realize is there. Like, how many of y'all have known before today that Pillsbury made their cookie dough safe to eat raw? See, one, like single digits number of hands. Like, you were probably eating it anyway. Right. But they went, you know what? People don't need to know this, but we're just going to go ahead and make it work. People don't have to think about installing a whole bunch of different things on their computers. They should just be safe to use. People shouldn't have to think about whether this website is better than that website, which applications I can safely install on my phone, how precisely do I best communicate with the people in my life. If I want to do an anonymous hookup, how do I do that? It should not be rocket science. It should be default that I can do all of those things safely. So we, as the experts in the room, need to make it so our users don't have to think about any of this stuff. Like, that is our jobs, y'all. I mean, I hope that most of you were in the room for Bruce's rant earlier, but like, this is why we're here. We are here to make the world a better place, so let's do it. And let's do it in a way that our users just use. Really quick note here, this entire talk was inspired by a Tumblr post because so many of the best things in the world happen on Tumblr. And you know, you can see there the user just being like, they gave up on telling people what to do. They just decided, look, let's just stop yelling at people and start producing a product that they can actually use. And so that is really all that I have. I am not going to ramble up here until I hit a time limit. Really, that's all I have. Meet people where they are, use your expertise, and try to produce things that are transparent to your users so they don't have to think about it. Contact info up there.
Thank you very much. Who wants to go first?
We should let Katie go first.
Mrs. Katie.
Okay, so delicious bribes, but nothing for me because I'm not taking off my mask, and I'm actually watching my blood sugar these days, so I cannot partake of any of this. Well, maybe if I eat a giant salad before I do it. I don't know. Yeah. So I gave you 10,000 points for leaving the podium. I love when people use the stage, and, you know, good job on that. I had a director in a show I was in once tell me that he had an audition where the only audition was him walking silently up a set of stairs away from the audience. And it was to test the command of the stage, and you looked like you were really comfortable up there, so great job on that. Smooth recovery on your clicker fail. Your clicker failed, you made note of it, and you just moved on. I don't see a lot of speakers able to do that very gracefully. Even some seasoned speakers, AKA old, like myself, can sometimes, that can throw off their whole rhythm. So great job keeping the rhythm there. The themes of your talk were great. I mean, they're exactly what we want in cybersecurity practitioners. No more blaming the user for, you know, their delicious habits of sending nudes and cookies and all that stuff. Inspired by real life, 1,000 points, and the fact that it was short and very sweet, 1,000 points. Thank you.
All right, well, I guess I'm going to go next because you're still eating cookies. Delicious bribe. Absolutely phenomenal. So I think, Katie, you should, well, no, because you're watching your blood sugar. I'll eat yours. Plus 300 points for cookies because they were good cookies. Taught us a bunch of things we didn't know, but more importantly, the metaphor and the carryover to why it matters for security. Pristine. Like, could not have done a better job of, like, at first I'm like, why are we talking about cookies? And then it was all brilliantly executed. As Katie mentioned, excellent use of the stage. I loved your slides. One of the things I love is when a slide is a headline that the audience can take a picture of, and they can tweet or not tweet, use the other things, but then they're talking, because it hammers that headline home for people, and you mastered that as well. Excellent lack of blaming of users, and I know from your abstract that you are also a yarnista, and that inspired me to bring my knitting while we did this, so Yarnsters Unite. Overall, I gave you a total of 14,000 points. However, that is in Canadian dollars. So,
Exchange rate's a killer.
I know. So it's, it's not quite 14,000, but it's close.
That isn't Zambimian dollars or whatever country that is. Again, I get to go last, so all the good things have been taken. But I'm going to reiterate what a bunch of other people have already said. I really enjoy this new trend of food bribery. Last year we had lasagna, this year we have cookies. Hope that's a trend that continues, at least for one more year. Again, handheld mic, taking ownership of the stage. Excellent use there, love that. And I really, really love the primary theme of your talk of letting the user be the user, and we need to move around them. Users are going to click on stuff, right? That's what we pay them for. The users are going to take nude selfies. That's what they do. They're users, okay? We got to fight.
That's what we pay them for.
Right? Let them do it. User's going to use, right? You got to fight for the user. So let them do what they're going to do, and we as security professionals need to secure them around that. We cannot change the behavior of the user. That's not going to happen. It's pointless. We can train and educate them all we want, but they're still going to be the outliers. So we need to work around that. So thank you for continuing to harp on that message.
And I know this wasn't specifically your message, but riffing off of you for a moment, that's not just your company's customers, it's your security team customers, as in the dev teams. So if you're not thinking about your developer user experience and you're like, oh my God, why are they pushing to prod without a 2PR? Well, because it's designed, like, you have to change the design. You have to change your security models to make it a good user experience, whether that user is the customer that gives your company money or the developer that's doing the thing, whatever that thing might be. I'm not the one supposed to be talking, but it was a great talk. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Everybody can leave.
Don't care where you go, but you can stay here. No.
Tell them when the winners are announced.
Oh, yeah. So who's going to be at closing ceremonies? Yay! We're all going to be there. Hopefully, for those that don't live local, hopefully you made late flights on Sunday night. Oh, great. My speaker notes just decided to refresh. Or not speaker notes, talking notes, whatever. All right, so just a few closing notes. So I just want to give a big shout out, first of all, to Katie, because she's finally back. Yay! We really missed her. Also, unless the judges overrule me, we do have some free cookies if people want to come up. The booze, I was thinking about saying that, but I'm just going to say no comment. Nothing official. Oh my God, we already have people coming up.
There are cookies.
All right. Also, one last closing thing. One speaker did leave a bag up here, so if you're missing a bag and you happen to speak at Firetalks, your bag is up here.
It's actually good.
Yeah. Lastly, so I already said, so we're going to be announcing the winners at closing ceremonies.
Very cute.
And with that, I will bid you all adieu and enjoy the rest of the ShmooCon. Thank you for attending. Good night.